So I'm going to ask John to start and get us going.
Thank you, Albert. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I will do my very best to keep myself to time and to keep everybody excited. I've just come back from the shut-eye from New York and Washington last night, where I've been promoting my book, Freedom for Sale. And what the book does is it aligns very closely with Index's work, and particularly what I call public freedoms. What I seek to do in the book is to ask a simple question: why is it that increasing numbers of people around the world, whatever their circumstances, culture, history, geography, nevertheless appear increasingly willing to trade their freedoms in return for the promise of either prosperity or security? And I differentiate between what I call private freedoms and public freedoms. Private freedoms have done well over the last 20 years of globalization, of what I call consumer glut. They are pretty much the freedom to lead your atomized life in the way you wish to do. Freedom not to be, not to have your life determined by government. Freedom to lead your own private life more equitably than had been the case before. Freedom to determine your children's education, your health, basically your atomized existence and the well-being of yourself and your community. And the primary freedom in all of this has been the freedom to make and spend your money. And I chart 8 countries around the world, from authoritarian or semi-authoritarian states such as Singapore, China and Russia, to democracies or notional democracies such as India, Italy, the UK and the US. What has suffered in the last 20 years is what I call public freedoms. That is the freedom to get involved in the public realm unimpeded by the state. The freedom of freedom of association, and most of all, free speech, which in many ways has taken a battering, particularly in this country, which is why I was so interested in becoming involved in what Index does as Britain's primary free speech organization. In the last 3 months, I'm not sure, I hope people are across, we have launched a campaign to reform Britain's hideous libel laws. And what you have in this country now is a situation described only a few weeks ago by the House of Commons Culture and Media Committee as a humiliating situation in which the United States Congress has initiated legislation to protect Americans from our libel laws. What we have had over the last several months and years, and we document that in our literature and in our submissions to Jack Straw's Ministry of Justice Working Party and to the other political parties, what we have had is oligarchs, sheikhs, the rich and the powerful, chilling free speech, not just of Britons, but of writers, authors, bloggers, scientists, doctors around the world. And they do that by using Britain's very indulgent law courts that invariably find for the rich and powerful and are indulgent of the voracious 2 or 3 legal firms who feed upon this process. And I must say we have made some pretty good strides in the last several months. Jack Straw has agreed already to some significant technical changes that will make it harder for law firms to make fast bucks in this process, and we're looking forward after the election, no matter which party wins, to more progress on this front. Libel tourism and British libel in general are significant chillers of free speech. And I'll just leave you with one final thought, which is another form of attack on free speech. In the old days, we, Index and other organizations monitoring this, saw free speech pretty much as black and white cases. There were countries where journalists, activists, and others were stopped from doing what they were doing simply through brute force. So in other words, take for example the former Soviet Union, where I used to live and work as a journalist. Journalists and activists, NGOs and others were either killed or imprisoned or other forms of oppression, such as kicking people out of their jobs, punishing their families, and that kind of thing. That sort of thing still goes on in several countries around the world. Burma is a case in point, obviously North Korea, Central Asian republics. There are many countries, Zimbabwe too, and still Russia and China to a certain degree. What I think is more challenging in our types of systems as well as authoritarian systems is what I call the shades of grey form of censorship and self-censorship. That is fear to cause offence, fear of rocking the boat, both for financial reasons, such as a newspaper wondering about its financial viability, and artistic freedom as well. And just several months ago, I was doing a seminar at the Arts Council in Brighton on this very subject, and I'll just leave you with this thought. A theatre manager of quite a prominent theatre, I will say no more than that, said to me that when they provisionally agree their schedule of programs for the next 12 months, they then put it in front of a carefully selected focus group, and they say to them, is there anything in this content that could remotely cause you offence? Now just imagine that. I imagine I could say anything in the next 5 minutes that would offend each and every one of you in some way. Now, if you do that, if you enshrine this idea of vacuous conformism and you take it to a logical conclusion, then you are going to have a chilling of free speech, a chilling of the right to provoke in all forms of the arts and in all forms of the media. And I looked at the guy and I said to him, what on earth are you doing? And I asked others around in the room, are you doing the same thing? And the basic view was variations on this theme. So we've got major challenges here on free speech. I'll leave it there.